So yeah, we are starting the tour right now. $10. The park's free. It goes between 3 to 5 hours, and you can go at your own pace. The park is open from sun up to sundown. Hey guys, here at Gettysburg. About 15 minutes into the tour. We'll talk about the Civil War, Gettysburg being one of the main battles. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but let's talk about what the civil rights is all about. We all hear about slavery, and it is about slavery. It is about an industrial North, versus a agriculturally based economy in the South. Well, the two don't mix. The North is run by machines, and the South is run by slave labor. So when they outlawed slavery, that was a huge hit to them economically, to the South, because they weren't doing production. Now, a couple of the things that you need to know is that the platform that they use, and they still use it today, is states' rights, that the South was fighting for states' rights. Compare it to marijuana these days. Some states you can smoke marijuana or take medical marijuana. Some states you can't. Like Pennsylvania's a state that you can't, you can buy medical marijuana, but you can't go into a dispensary like you can in New York or other places. So they use states' rights, and what states' rights means is that they're going to say, hey, it's better for our state, we should have a national, we should have the Constitution, but the states should be able to decide certain things on their own, and that's kind of using it in layman's terms. The states of the South wanted to keep slavery legal and entirely up to them from state to state. That way they can protect their income. If they had to go out and obviously pay for labor now, it's a huge hit to the way of doing things. Where the North, everything was factory and industrial based. So let's think about slavery, let's think about states' rights, and that's the platform that they're going to use. So right in front of me is the peace, eternal light of freedom and a nation united. This signifies the end of the war, and the North and the South coming together, an eternal light that will burn forever. It's kind of ironic in today's world, back between 1861 and 1865, and even longer than that, but the Civil War was between those dates. The Reconstruction was, 1877, but what's interesting is you call it a unification, and right now I think our country is more divided than it's ever been. Probably about as bad as we're dealing with in the Civil War. Now, we haven't seen any bloodshed. I hope we don't see any bloodshed, but there's definitely a huge gap politically between Republicans and Democrats, which essentially, could lead to a war-type deal, a civil war. We have to be careful. We have to bring this country back together. But this is a sign of light. So we've done it before, all right? That's the thing. You can do this, you can do that, but once we unify together as a country, then there's really nothing anybody else can do. So whatever side you're on, just know that one of those sides is going to lose. And I have a feeling that it's not going to be a certain side. I'm not going to give my political agenda on this, but I do think that we're going to have a radical change in this country within the next 10 to 20 years, and no telling what's going on with the war over in the Middle East with Iran. Everything's just crazy right now. So let that freedom ring right there, that light right there is a sign that we've done this before and we've come back together. So yeah, we're up here on Cemetery Hill. This is pretty cool. It's a strategic place, obviously, for the Battle of Gettysburg. But the important part of it is, if you look at and you're looking at the landscape here, we're elevated. You can look down at the whole Civil War battlefield. So as people are approaching, the one thing that you have is you can see them coming from up the hill. Now you have to remember, there's no advanced form of radar or GPS or anything like that. Like, we can't see anything else. The only thing we have is our eyes and maybe some type of telescopic lens. But yeah, so when you're fighting a battle, one, knowing the terrain is a huge thing in all wars. Usually the person that knows the terrain is a little bit more successful in the old way of fighting wars, because they know, you think Vietnam, right? The hardest part about Vietnam was militarily was that we were fighting in a jungle. We've never done it before. Well, here is kind of a different deal, right? They're used to this type of warfare, but technology is changing. So as you think about the technology is coming from the north. Agriculturally, we're talking about what the South is solely based upon, and we got to talk about leadership. You have a lot of West Point great leaders. One of the advantages that the South had was that they had a pretty good edge on certain West Point graduates that we'll talk about that were able to lead them. So historically, people say that the South had better leadership, but the North had all the toys. So it's kind of like, you got a cool bike. You gonna ride it and make it look good, or do you hire someone that rides bikes as a professional that can do tricks? So the person that knows how to use the toys is the one that's going to be a little bit more successful. So you have a balance of both, right? The toys are up in the north, okay, and then all the leadership is in the south, which makes it an incredible, difficult war to win. Plus, you're fighting family on family, brother on, a friend on friend. This is a very, very, very personal war, and it's kind of something to think about in our time today. So a little visual in your head. This is called the Valley of Death. So you take July 2nd, and the weather is about 92 to 95 degrees, humid, muggy. Hundreds and hundreds of bodies lay across here, dead. Think about the sun cooking those bodies. They said that the blood from the men flew into a canal or a river that's up here, and that's it right there. We just passed it. So the smell had to have been absolutely awful. The other thing I want you to think about is, with that hot temperature, all of their uniforms, from my memory, and not memory of being in the Civil War, but from what I've read, everything was made of cotton back then. So it was extremely, extremely hot. So they didn't have like weather permitting type uniforms back then. Now you have different things, right? You have different camouflages for wars, right? If you were in the jungle, then you would wear military. If you're fighting in the desert, then your camouflage is going to look a little bit like desert color. The other thing I want you guys to realize is that, when you talk about wars, a lot of people oh, and it's in a bunch of movies. It's in Forrest Gump. It's in a bunch of different war movies that people always talk about your feet. Take care of your feet. Take care of your feet. Well, that's huge. And if you look at like the Civil War, if you look at the movie Glory with Denzel Washington, there's a scene where they are picking out boots from dead bodies and whatnot, because the overall fact of it is that your feet are so important to the health of your body. There were one of the main causes of death in World War I in trench warfare was the frozen feet, not changing your socks. You know, think about how good shoes are now, but I can think back to in the 70s and 80s. I mean, completely different. You know, they were uncomfortable. You always had good boots, though, if you lived in New York, right? You always got a good pair of boots for the winter. That way you can get through the snow, and then, you know, we can dress accordingly. They couldn't here. So a lot of people, as they're going through this hot, sweaty, think about their socks, think about not changing their socks, think about what their feet look like, the smell. I know just from my own experience with my health issue recently that my feet and my legs suffer the most. It's on the men now, but it's I mean, I take that as uncomfortable as it was, and I multiply it by like 10,000. I mean, I can't imagine where you just can't physically walk on your feet, and it's infected and they're cut, and then you're having to put those boots back on and walk. It's just think about it. Just think about what you know, the leather-soaked boots, you know, just with blood, everything, just nasty, nasty, nasty. Hey guys, as I sit here on this audio tour, there's a couple of things that just popped into my head. The first one is, I want you to think about the drummer boys. The drummer boys in the Civil War were very important. Some as young as the age of 10 were recorded, so 10 years old to their you know, early teen years. If you were past your early teen years, you're probably involved in the battle. 16 to 18 years old. Some got in earlier than that. There was really no proper way to check, you know, everybody's age, and it was probably really easy to forge documents, because sometimes entering the war, they looked at that they were going to get food, clothing, and a place to sleep, and they don't look at so much what's about to start ahead of them. But so with the drummer boys, you know, you have these kids that they march to the beat of a drum. You ever hear that? That's what it is, right? The drummer boys are the beat of the drum. That's how you march. They will tell you to retreat. They will tell you to pull back. They don't have weapons, so they are standing right with the soldiers, and they are in harm's way as much as the soldiers are. So that's a chaotic experience. Picture yourself being 10 years old or whatnot, and you're in the middle of this gruesome, bloody battle in Gettysburg, and you're looking at the dead bodies, and you are getting shot at, and you are moving forward with the other soldiers. It's pretty remarkable to think about. The other thing I want you guys to think about is the difficulty in this war. Throw all the stuff that you read about in history books away. The thing that I want you to focus on is the reason why it was so hard for the North and the South to fight each other was humanity, a belief in the same type of humanity. You know, you have, ethical, same types of religion, the same language. You have people that, despite geographical locations, for the most part, are pretty much the same. I've lived in both the South and the North, and there's differences in both. And if you're from Texas, you're a proud Texan, and and they should be. That is an amazing place to live. But with that being said, they have the same beliefs, right? It's hard to fight your brother. It's hard to fight family members. It's hard to fight someone that looks like you. It's hard to fight someone that you may know or you may know of. You relate to them. Hundreds of humanitarian stories are documented in the Civil War of Confederate soldiers and Union soldiers passing each other and helping each other out. As a sign of humanity and a gesture, like, you know, you're just like me. I could be on the other side of it. And people that hits home for people. So there wasn't so much of a hatred like other people may have in the war. I mean, there was obviously propaganda, but you know, the propaganda, you know, when it's on your homeland, you can kind of decipher through some of it through newspapers and things like that. But I wanted you to think about that it's very hard to fight someone that you feel like you know, or you could know, you could be friends with. That makes it really, really difficult. They have pretty good so what they do is they put down these they call it prescribed burn areas, so it kind of smells like, as you're driving through the tour, it kind of smells like you're in the middle of a battle, despite the smell is actually good though, because it's all like fire and burnt things, and so you're not actually smelling the dead bodies, which is good, but it's kind of a cool ambiance, so to say. So one of the things I want to talk about too, any war, Civil War as well, Battle of Gettysburg, more Pennsylvanians died in the Battle of Gettysburg than any other state, and that's, you know, obvious reasons, we're in Pennsylvania. But I want to talk about imperialism, which is a cause of all, it comes to play in every single war. Imperialism basically is, you know, and militarism. You know, you can look at all those are the two main causes of war, right? Like, you want to use new technology, and imperialism is nothing more than taking land so you can use the goods and services for that land. You know, that's my definition of it. Like, basically, your interest now is like in the Battle of Gettysburg. Gettysburg's interest, the South wants to push through Gettysburg all the way through the North so they can take over everything, right? So that's what they're doing. The Pennsylvania people and all the other folks in the Civil War from the Confederate States and the Union states are all fighting for that same reason. They're fighting for Pennsylvania right now. They're fighting in Gettysburg, and they're trying to stop aggression. That's something that I think is really cool to think about. Think about today's time. What do we want to do right now? You know, everything's all about oil, right? But let's just think about imperialistic views and just gaining land as a military tactic with good militarism and leadership. So another thing I want you to think about is how many miles a day these guys were walking. Average per mileage a day that they would walk is about 20. Sometimes on a forced march, they had to get somewhere quicker, it could be 30 to 40 miles a day. But you know, 15 would be a very light day, 20 would be an average day, 30 to 35 would be a high day. In the weeks up to the Battle of Gettysburg, people marched as far as, within 3 days, 300 miles. That would be the longest. The average march to get to Gettysburg was between 150 miles to 250 miles. I find that pretty amazing. So you think about dehydration, you think about all the walking that these people are doing, and the way they're drinking things, the feet, the clothing, everything. Miserable experience, my opinion. One of the cool things that the tour does is it takes you through the downtown area, Gettysburg, going from place to place. Is the town kind of runs around. A lot of the buildings are still the same, but it gives you ideas of where to go to. You know, all these different types of taverns, pubs, coffee shops, restaurants, antique stores, you name it. You have it all right here within walking distance, not far at all. So that's pretty cool right there. And so far, like I said, the pricing has been to eat and whatever has been just crazy cheap, coming from New York and everywhere else in this country. Just, like I said, I think earlier in one of my posts that it cost me $15 for a burger, fries, and a glass of iced tea. That's almost what you pay at damn McDonald's now. Like I think it's over $10 sometimes for a upsized value meal. Yeah, the tour is worth it. It's pretty cool. $10 is what it cost me to do the whole tour, and it runs straight through your phone, your GPS. You can wear headphones, which I'm doing. It cuts off all the sound, and you just kind of get lost for a while, and just kind of hear really cool stories. And it's good sightseeing. It's peaceful. You can do it at your own pace. And again, the park's completely free, and it's a really cool town. So I'm gonna go and explore the rest of the town. So for $10 with taxes, about $11, you can do the whole. The whole tour. So $11 is basically what you're gonna